73 years ago, you are born in a communal apartment with no basic comforts. An ordinary boy from Leningrad, unnoticed among thousands of similar children. No one suspects that one day your decisions will influence the fate of an entire continent. This is the story of how a teenage dream of joining intelligence services turns into the longest period of political power in modern Russian history. This is the story of Vladimir Putin. On October 7th, 1952, in Leningrad, in a family that survived the siege, you are born as the third son. Two older brothers had already died before your birth. One before the war, the other during the darkest months of the blockade in 1942. You were the only surviving child. Your father served in the NKVD during the war and later worked as a factory foreman. Your mother survived the siege and worked as a nurse and cleaner. Your family lived in a single room in a communal apartment on Baskov Lane, without hot water and without a bathroom. Your first coat comes only when you are 20. At school, you are not a top student. You perform average, but you find yourself in sports. While many dream of space or football, you are fascinated by Soviet films about intelligence officers. You begin training in Sambo, then judo. You later become a master of sports in both disciplines and, at 16, win the Leningrad championship. But sports is never your true goal. One day, still a schoolboy, you walk into the KGB office in Leningrad and ask how to join intelligence. You are told simply, they do not recruit from the street. You must either serve in the army or graduate from university, preferably law. That moment becomes your roadmap. In 1970, you enter the law faculty of Leningrad State University. Out of 100 students, only 10 are accepted directly after school, and you are among them. It is here that you first meet Associate Professor Anatoly Sobchak. At that time, he is just a lecturer and you are just a student. Neither of you knows that this meeting will later change your entire life. In your senior years, KGB recruiters begin to take notice of you. In 1975, after graduating, you achieve your goal and join the state security services. The early years are far from cinematic. Administrative work, counterintelligence, investigative departments, routine operations. Then come training courses in Leningrad and advanced education at the KGB Higher School in Moscow. In 1985, you are sent to Dresden in East Germany. Officially, you are the director of a Soviet-German friendship house. In reality, you are an intelligence officer. Among your colleagues are people who will later become widely known across Russia. The resident network is led by Colonel Lazar Matveyev. Even before your departure in 1983, at a concert by Arkady Raikin, you meet Lyudmila, who will later become your wife. In 1985, your first daughter Maria is born, and in Dresden in 1986, your second daughter Yekaterina is born. While your family life develops, the world around you begins to collapse. In 1989, the Berlin Wall falls. A revolution begins in East Germany. The system you served for 15 years disappears. Together with colleagues, you burn archives as crowds approach intelligence buildings. In January 1990, you return to the Soviet Union as a reserve lieutenant colonel. But the country you return to is no longer the one you left. After returning, you refuse a transfer to Moscow and stay in Leningrad, working at the university as assistant to the rector for international affairs. August 1991 becomes a turning point. While the coup attempt unfolds in Moscow, your former professor Anatoly Sobchak openly opposes the putschists. At that moment, you resign from the KGB. That decision changes your entire path. You enter Sobchak's political team. First as an advisor, then as head of the Foreign Relations Committee of the St. Petersburg Mayor's Office. The 1990s are not years of public success. You remain in the background, working close to Sobchak, facing accusations related to food supply schemes in the city, which are later not confirmed by investigations. After Sobchak's electoral defeat, you move to Moscow and join the presidential administration. During these years, almost no one sees you as a future head of state. By 1999, Russia is in crisis. President Boris Yeltsin is seriously ill, his approval rating is extremely low, and prime ministers change one after another. On August 9, 1999, you are appointed Prime Minister of Russia. At that time, most citizens barely know your name. On the same day, Boris Yeltsin unexpectedly names you as his successor. Within days, militants enter Dagestan. The Second Chechen War begins. You respond with a hard and decisive approach, and your popularity rises rapidly. Within months, your approval rating more than doubles. On December 31, 1999, Boris Yeltsin announces his resignation. You become acting president of Russia. On your first day, you travel to Chechnya to meet with soldiers. On March 26, 2000, you are elected president of Russia in the first round. Just 8 years earlier, you were working as a university assistant rector. Now you lead the largest country in the world. What began as a temporary appointment turns into decades of power. Presidential terms, a period as prime minister, and continuous leadership span more than 2 decades. The early years coincide with rising oil prices and rapid economic growth. For millions of Russians, this feels like stability after the hardships of the 1990s. But alongside stability comes increasing centralization of power. Many influential businessmen and political figures who once supported your rise gradually lose influence or leave the country. On February 24, 2022, you make a decision to launch a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. This becomes the most debated and controversial moment of your political career, fundamentally changing how you are viewed both inside and outside the country. The boy from a communal apartment on Baskov Lane, once dreaming of becoming a spy after watching Soviet films, becomes a man whose name defines an entire era. Your journey from counterintelligence officer to the most powerful figure in Russia takes less than 30 years. This story shows how the ambitions of one individual, aligned with the turning point in a nation's history, can reshape the lives of millions far beyond a single biography.